Hello again and welcome to another episode of the Franchise Everything podcast, where we talk about everything and anything franchising, and we are still here at the Melbourne Franchising and Business Opportunities Expo. Lots going on in the background, and once again we've got Darryn McAuliffe here, the CEO of FRANdata. We've just done a podcast, Darryn, and you might have already seen it by now on the live stream or even later, on the 7 reasons why a franchise might not be a good one for you off the data that you've seen. And now we're going to flip that and find out and turn this data around to the 7 reasons why a franchise is a good one for you.
Yeah, great.
You're going to kick off and go?
Terrific.
Roll with it. Go with it.
So, we're at the expo and it's very busy. So, I think there's probably a lot of people getting good leads. There are a lot of people getting good answers to good questions. So, let's spin through a couple of them. So, the first thing that we look at when we're rating is the direction in the units, right? So, what we like to see is that the unit has had disciplined growth, that they actually are growing slowly over a long period of time. They're not in a hurry. It's not unsustainable. They're not just chasing rapid growth without really having a good strategic view. So disciplined growth over a long period of time to us is reflective of good practice.
And we talk about that. People who are in the know in franchising, in the media, they might talk about this amazing growth of these brands. When we're in franchising and we see stories of this explosive growth that a franchise is having, it raises some red flags internally because we know what sort of pressure that puts on operationally and all that into a business.
Well, franchise systems want and need to grow their networks. So if they compromise their recruitment disciplines, they're setting themselves up for failure in the long term. And a big risk for a prospective franchisee, if you're in a hurry and they're letting other people in too fast, it might be a problem for the network which you're part of. So it is an early warning sign when we see too much chest beating about how fast they're growing. We often wonder, when everyone else is finding a market, whatever the level of challenge is, that if someone says we're shooting
exploding.
the lights out, but perhaps they're cutting some corners.
Okay. All right. Next one.
So franchisee financial performance, this varies a lot what information you can get, but I think probably the most powerful thing you can get as a prospective franchisee is to talk to existing franchisees, a couple that haven't been in there too long, a couple that have been there a while, a couple that have been there a long time. Keep asking till you're comfortable you're getting a consistent message, but actually ask them, are their financial expectations being met? So if the franchisor has told you what is being done on a turnover level, then just listen. Is that what the franchisees are telling you? Try and spend some time with them in the business to actually see, is it as busy as the franchisor says? And then the other thing you need to be mindful of is one size doesn't fit all here, right? There are some mobile service-based franchise systems that they don't have anywhere near the turnover and a profit that a massive. Well, let's pick on McDonald's for a second. It's a very substantial investment, very substantial return. You don't necessarily have that capital up front for many prospective franchisees. Therefore, the difference between a couple of million and $20,000 is a different return.
And I think this is important, that it's a difference of expectation that the person originally has. So I would be in conversations with a bunch of mobile service type franchise brands, with franchisors who would lament the fact that their franchisee is only turning over, say, $150,000 a year. But that franchisee, a lot of them, that was what they signed up for. They didn't want to do extra hours. They didn't want to make that into a $250,000, $300,000 business. They're very happy as they are.
Well, you're spot on, because people have got different needs, right? And some people are balancing families, and they might have, have finished their corporate careers early and don't want to work full-time long hours. They're saying, if I can work 3 or 4 days a week and get this, that's all I need and want. If I can work something, between the hours of 10 and 2 that gives me flexibility with children or whatever other commitments I've got, that suits very well. So,
it's context, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, next one into recruitment, which is franchise sales.
So this is an interesting one. So sometimes prospective franchisees find it a bit onerous, all the things a franchisor puts them through. Do this psychological test, go and do this, come back for this 3rd, 4th interview, this person, that person. They think, what a process to go through. It's actually a really good sign, because it means they're really thorough. They're putting a very high value on their brand, so they're very careful who they bring in. Now, fast forward, if you happen to like that franchise and you buy in, then you want them doing with other people coming in. Like I said before with units, you don't want them actually just giving it away
to anyone with a checkbook,
very casually. And then all of a sudden you you find out that you've got other people that aren't doing the right thing by the brand, makes your brand worth less, right?
Yeah, and there are a lot of franchise brands who will say things like, oh, it's really hard to get into our brand, but the proof is in the pudding, isn't it? So if they tell you that, but you go through a process and it was really straightforward and there was no, say for example, no psychometric testing, no profiling, no all that sort of stuff, it's not that that is the only thing that works, but it has to be part of a process.
Yeah, it's part of it. And, you know, again, you might be going through all these steps and processes over many, many weeks, but you can still talk to an existing franchisee, and you don't even have to get their name and address from the franchisor like they need to give you at different points in the process. You can just go into an outlet and just ask the franchisee, how's life in this franchise? You'll soon know. And if they say, fantastic, best thing I've ever done, I'd be very patient. I'd go through all those steps because you want a franchisor that's strict who they allow in.
Excellent. Next one we move on to is satisfaction in the franchise.
So you're going into a franchise, you want to be happy that you've bought in. Again, existing franchisees are a great measure of that. But if you ask the franchisors how they do it, the sort of things you would like to hear is we do external surveys of our network. We have franchisee focus groups. Everyone gets a turn. They're representative of all different levels, states, regional towns. We have conferences. Once we do this research, we find out things that need to improve, because like any business or any group, there's always something that can be improved, and they actually measure it, monitor it, and play it back. And that's how they get better, because there's an old saying, what got us here won't get us there. So you want a franchisor that's always looking at the future, taking the feedback from their franchisees, and they're happy. Yeah,
and they could ask more direct questions like, can you tell me about what franchise advisory councils you have and that sort of stuff? And you touch a little bit on what they are.
Yeah, so most quality franchise systems have what they call a franchise advisory council in place. So the franchisor owns the brand and the system and the model, but they rely very heavily on the feedback they get from what are effectively their business partners, the franchisees running the individual outlets. So they will actually get information from them early to say, we got a problem because we can't sell this anymore because the competitor's selling that. And that will help their franchisor accelerate the work they're doing on that. They'll say, this is a pain in the neck for us. This is stopping us doing what we want to do. Or we're unhappy with this, or we're unhappy with that, or that promotion went terrifically well. Can we do that more often, or this and that? So it's great live feedback.
It's real-time practical feedback.
Yeah, and it's also, if the franchisor thinks it's a great idea, they can actually get the representatives of the whole franchise network on that little advisory council and say, listen, what do you think about this? And they'll say, it sounds great. Let's go and talk back to our individual areas and come back and confirm it. Or similarly, they might say, no, that's a bad idea. They'll react like this. Well, don't even tell them. We don't need to go down that path. It's an early warning sign.
Okay, next one we'll move on to is training. Training to make sure to see if you can see it a franchise is a good one for you.
Training. So one of the great benefits of a franchise system is that there's a model that's established and works. So you want to be confident that the day you open the door, or the day you do your first mobile service round, that you've got everything you need to be successful. So the training, I know how to work everything, I know how to do everything, I've got everything works day one. So I would summarise that is, does a franchisor position you for success day one? That's another good question to ask existing franchisees. Were you ready to go when the lights came on? Yes, we were. Or no, the FBOS didn't work. Or no, the mowers hadn't turned up. Or or whatever. So just position for success day one. And again, the best proof of that is existing franchisees.
And I think to touch on training, yes, everyone talks about a training program, but to ask a franchisor a little bit more detail, that training program should be multi-channel or multi-disciplined, isn't it? So you should have real-life field type experience, you should have theory, you should have online, you should have one-on-one learning, all those sorts of things.
Yeah, a good example. I mean, you just pick on something like a coffee franchise. They'll often have their coffee machines, barista training, then they'll go and put them in with a franchisee that's operating to actually work with them, make some of those coffees under pressure with a real live audience, and they'll give them the technical support. How do you clean the machines, keep them running? So there's a lot of different parts of it. How are you confident you know how to make every different brew? So it's just position for success day one. I've got every base covered, and moving into the next one, Glenn.
Yeah, let's move on to the next one, to support.
Support is because there's a natural bridge from training to support. There's initial training that gets you ready. Once you're in the system, you need and want support. And what you don't want is someone not giving you that support when you need it the most, when you're early. So you want what I'd call a soft landing for the franchisor weaning you off that training program. So what a lot of the good brands do is they actually gradually withdraw. So they're there with me day one when I open the store. They're making sure that everything's working for me. If I get a mental block or I panic on something, remember, this is what you do, this is how you do it. Then they're leaving me by myself when it's not so busy. Then they're seeing me cope when it is busy. And then they're just gradually weaning themselves off. They're coming in for, a couple of times a week early, for quite some weeks to check that everything's okay and everything's being serviced. And then they get into their normal cycle of support. So there's a bridge from initial training. It then becomes support the day you open the centre. I mean, there's ongoing training when things change, new machines, whatever. But you want support. There's a couple of things. Firstly, a franchise model, there's a blueprint there for success. But the reality is things can go wrong. So what you want from your franchisor is they know what those early warning signs are. Firstly, they've got to know what they are, what's the problem. Secondly, they need to be able to identify them early. And thirdly, once they do find them, they need to act on them to protect the franchisee.
Yeah, and I think I came across a brand the other day I was talking to, and maybe this is a good question someone could ask a franchisor, what do you do, what's your process when things aren't going well? And I came across a brand the other day who have something they call a priority program.
Yep.
So that when someone hits into certain benchmarks in the business, and it was actually a cleaning business, but it was a cleaning business when they hit below a certain level of income, or I think it was
It's like
bookings.
a trigger.
It was bookings,
Yeah.
and that would trigger what they call a priority program, which was then immediately jumped into action. Was a priority support where they get more marketing, more support, more field support, and everything, and it was very effective.
And that priority program, a lot of brands have got different names for it.
Yeah.
So what support do you give to franchisees that need it? And the other thing, of course, is that if you've got 20, 30 or more franchisees or 100 in some cases, it just things don't work every time for every single franchisee. It's a bit, I use the analogy sometimes like a school. If you've got a school of 1,000 kids, not every teacher's going to be good, not every kid's going to be top of the class, right? So how do you help the kids that are struggling? How do you help the teacher that's not connecting with the kids? It can still be a good school, but you need to understand it. So same with the franchise system. If a school says, oh no, never had a problem here, you don't believe them, right? What you want to know is that this is how we fix the problem. If it's a franchisor, they say, we've got a couple of franchisees that aren't going so well. This is how we know it's a problem. This is how we support them and how we turn it around for them. So
Excellent. All right, let's move on to lender relations, which is the last one in that 7 list.
Yeah, so I guess wrapping up, if you're ready to push the button, and like most prospective franchisees, you need assistance with finance to complete the transaction, you're hoping that your franchisor has got good relationships with lenders. Good relationships with lenders come from an investment in time more than anything else to give them the information in a language they understand and trust. So franchise systems need to be lender friendly, we call it. And as a prospective franchisee, I would say to the brand, if I need finance to complete this transaction, where can I go? Right, and that franchisor, we said it on the last podcast, Glenn, the franchisor should be able to tell you the names of lenders that have asked them, can you please refer new franchisees to us? That is a lender that wants to do business with them. Just take this one step further. What's the worst thing that could happen to a lender? Lose money when they loan it. What do you think happens when they lose money on loans to a franchise system? They stop dealing with them. They don't want the next franchisee. They don't want another headache.
They don't want to lose any more money.
If they're getting all their money back, then we want more of this, please. So it's, so the actual, how a franchisor treats a franchisee and how they treat a lender is the same, right? So if a successful franchisee, great business for lenders. A franchisee that has some stress or a problem or loses money, disaster for the lenders, then the franchisor can't get access to finance.
Excellent. Not sort of a happy way to finish, but not really.
Well it
it's
is.
reality.
Well, it's a reality check, right? Because for a lender that is actively looking to lend to a particular franchise system,
is a good sign.
That means the franchise system's good. So you've got to understand the negative, what chases them away. The flip side of that is what makes them attractive, right? So if a lender wants to lend money, you almost know everything's going right because their experience is good.
Excellent. All right, Darren. Thanks for that, mate.
Thanks, Glenn.
Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
That's it for another one on the Franchise Everything podcast. I hope you enjoyed that one. Again, lots of information for you to do the best thing that you can with it out into the business world. We'll catch you in the next one soon.